Let us execute an immediate, sweeping analytical vector shift away from the sterile medical facilities, weaponized cognitive manipulation, and hospital ward traps of clinical psychological suspense, and plunge straight into the high-octane, calculation-heavy tracking grids of modern flat shares, weaponized toxic proximity, and the fiercely protective, dangerously fragile world of an ambitious young professional asset running a raw tactical survival loop. We are crossing the threshold directly into the hyper-monitored claustrophobic perimeters of a shared urban apartment, exploring the lethal analytical parameters of an intense, trust-shattering deception matrix with The Roommate, an exceptional, pulse-pounding contribution to the Deadly Ambition collection engineered by the absolute, undisputed Irish sovereign of domestic secrets, neighborhood paranoia, and high-velocity relational tension, Andrea Mara. This high-stakes narrative tracking sequence delivers an exceptional look at an operational crossroads where a fierce, underestimated female career asset running an unyielding safety loop, an encroaching, deceptively attentive flatmate asset running a high-stakes proximity tracking routine, and an absolute defense of an individual's final personal sovereignty metrics collide at terminal velocity. Let us map the strategic narrative grid. If you are an elite enthusiast of high-octane, slow-burn psychological thrillers where an endangered, hyper-observant female protagonist must navigate an absolute maze of rigged living arrangements, corrupt professional gaslighting, and a deadly ring of active residential frame-ups while running a blind survival loop inside a completely compromised domestic ecosystem, where an analytical mind uses deep behavioral profiling, calculated personal space boundaries, and absolute emotional stamina to outmaneuver an invisible predatory domestic shadow network, and where the author utilizes an incandescent, ambitious young woman moves into the perfect city apartment only to realize her seemingly ideal roommate has a lethal obsession with her career and life diagnostic routine to test our hero's structural limits, this book is engineered to lock you in. Mara completely dominates the high-precision toxic flatshare red flags meets suffocating professional rivalry dynamic, capturing the heart-racing intellectual momentum, suffocating domestic paranoia, and heavy deductive depth popularized by genre vargs like Lucy Foley, B.A. Paris, Ruth Ware, and Sherry LaPena, while treating realistic digital footprint surveillance logistics, complex interpersonal manipulation alignment arcs, and protective high-density psychological extraction grids with absolute technical mastery. The narrative tracking grid zeroes in on the highly volatile, calculation-heavy baseline of our central legendary powerhouse asset, operating under a severe, calculation-heavy handicap of intense career pressures, high-stakes professional benchmarks, and a hyper-visible targeting profile inside her own rented perimeter. Behind her rigorous corporate database footprints and tense personal scheduling logs lies an intricate matrix of hidden faction allegiances, deeply buried high society secrets, and sharp high-stakes tactical maneuvers. Her collective defense mechanisms are locked down tight behind a lifetime of trying to secure her corporate standing and navigating intense urban isolation, her entire analytical focus strictly consumed by monitoring sudden threat vectors from an aggressive domestic shadow handler, parsing complex behavioral shifts from the stranger sharing her kitchen, and shielding her vulnerable sanctuary nodes from being entirely wiped out by a ruthless elite cleanup offensive. The spark ignites when an unexpected high-frequency structural anomaly breaches her active scanning perimeter, a series of subtle micro-trespasses, missing personal items, altered digital files, and an unsettling familiarity with her unshared professional goals instantly reveals a high-level calculated malice operating behind the shared apartment doors. As the hostile predator's containment phases enter an increasingly lethal terminal tier across her ticking clock timeline, a series of suspicious workplace saboteurs and calculation-heavy privacy breaches threaten to permanently eliminate her independent perimeter. The official diagnostic metrics of the global tracking centers flash white-hot when her independent counter-surveillance maneuvers and raw deductive output reveal that her roommate's hidden archival profile is radically, impossibly altering the household's historical balance of power. The standard boundaries of routine domestic sharing and peaceful civilian compliance protocols crumble, and our central protagonists run completely out of standard diplomatic escape vectors. They are thrust directly into an active invisible war across their private living quarters, where deceptive friends masking their true identities, highly manipulative corporate rivals, and a calculation-heavy psychological shadow network launch aggressive countermeasures to permanently suppress her survival data stream.
The tactical parameters instantly explode as their historical and survival warfare turns completely active, transforming the isolated communal corridors, dark bedroom perimeters, and private fortified residential suites into a volatile psychological pressure cooker and a physical battle zone. Our protective, hyper-vigilant heroine is forced to deploy her massive intuitive tradecraft, elite behavioral mapping skills, and raw mental stamina to preserve her focus before her relentless, calculation-heavy proximity containment phase permanently deletes her boundaries. The threat vector is purposeful and resolute, determined to deploy deep digital surveillance loops, localized psychological sabotage, and persistent psychological dominance to rewrite her personal metrics, only to realize her hardened defensive protocols and shifting counter-narratives match her adversary's raw tactical step for step. Every midnight archival excavation, every silent choice to stand off against an encroaching adversary behind standard security barriers, and every intense moment of channeling raw, unyielding survival mechanics chips away at her reliance on original peaceful rules. What follows is an exceptional, high-stakes war of perspective, tactical position, and raw human grit. We watch the urban elite's deceptive perimeters completely unwrapped as Andrea Mara reveals that the true victory requires more than just surviving an initial boundary violation or managing a difficult house meeting. It demands an absolute, uncompromising defense of individual dignity, personal truth, and systemic survival against a cold, calculating machine of domestic manipulation and psychopathic supremacy. While our central characters smooth over each other's psychological and defensive blind spots with devastating analytical force, creating a fiercely protective, absolute web of dark possessive loyalty around their shared perimeter, a brutal series of close-quarters tactical confrontations and high-stakes evidentiary breakthroughs shift the block into its terminal phase, proving that historical emotional hazards have tracked them to their final outpost. To survive the impending locked grid trap and permanently secure her sanctuary, our resilient heroine must unleash an absolute, unyielding defense of her final boundary lines. It is a psychological thriller, domestic suspense noir, toxic relationship mystery, high-velocity contemporary puzzle masterpiece that treats deep relational logistics and intense structural friction with elite precision. The tension here burns with a sharp, calculation-heavy intensity. We are talking about that high-frequency, one-copy department key triggers a fatal living room showdown energy, where a sudden pause during an active franchise tactical briefing, an unexpected shift in an adversary's protective physical posture during a high-stakes standoff confrontation, or a heavy, possessive realization that an elite intelligence operative has completely mapped your personal coordinates carries massive structural weight. Mara writes with an exceptionally fresh, vivid, and beautifully blunt voice, capturing the heavy, oppressive atmosphere of a private executive vault before a major corporate takeover, and the distinct, subtle scent of polished mahogany, expensive city apartment candles, high-end tech hardware, fresh espresso beans, dynamic adrenaline, spilled copper, and pure, unadulterated suspense. What truly elevates this contemporary standalone marvel into elite territory is the author's unmatched ability to balance complex, high-stakes relationship dynamics and genuine protective power tradecraft alongside a breathtaking narrative pace and deep emotional hooks. Our protagonists don't rely on unbelievable, superficial Hollywood superhero action tropes. Their immense situational intelligence, strategic patience, and profound survival instincts match the complexity of the chaotic modern corporate and high society underworld they dominate step for step, making their choices to risk everything feel profoundly authentic and deeply gripping. The pacing moves with calculated momentum, tracking intense conversational standoffs and breathtaking tactical breakthroughs before ratcheting up to an absolute jaw-dropping conclusion that delivers total hard-earned advancement to their horizon. The Roommate is the definitive pro-level upgrade your high-stakes contemporary thriller and intense asset suspense library demands right now. It is elegant, immensely fast-paced, and utterly unpredictable. It proves that when your entire sanctuary is targeted by a cold, calculating institutional monster, the most revolutionary play you can execute is to lock your perimeters, trust your elite survival training, and fight like hell alongside your network to rewrite the data. So secure your personal reading sanctuary, review your emotional defensive perimeters, open your Kindle, and prepare to track the fleet.